Ever wonder how artificial intelligence thinks? Like, how does it recognize faces, write poems, or play chess better than most humans? The answer often comes down to something called a neural network. Sounds like brain science, right? And that's not a coincidence. Neural networks were inspired by how our brains work. But here's the thing, they're not brains. They don't actually think. They just do a really good job of mimicking how humans learn, sort of. So today, let's break it down using metaphors, doodles, and plain old common sense. Let's start with your brain. Inside your head, you've got billions of tiny cells called neurons. They're all connected, like a giant, messy web of Christmas lights. When you see something, like a cat, some neurons light up. Then those trigger other neurons, which trigger others, until your brain says, "Oh, that's a cat." Neural networks in AI try to do something similar, just with math instead of biology. Picture a big group of light bulbs arranged in layers. Each bulb is a neuron in the network. When you show it an image, certain bulbs light up, pass their signal to the next layer, and on it goes, until the final layer lights up and says, "cat," or "hot dog," or "not a hot dog." Now, that's a pretty simple explanation, but here's where it gets cooler. These bulbs, or neurons, don't start out knowing anything. They don't know what a cat is. You have to train them. Think of it like teaching a toddler. You show them a picture and say, "This is a dog." Show them another, "This is also a dog." Then a few more, "Nope, that's a cat. That's a toaster. That's a squirrel wearing a hat." And over time, the toddler, just like the neural network, starts to notice patterns. Big nose? Floppy ears. Tail wagging? Probably a dog. Neural networks learn in a similar way. You feed them lots and lots of examples, sometimes millions, and they start connecting the dots. Not by understanding what a dog is, but by learning patterns in the data. Here's another metaphor. Imagine you're tossing ingredients into a soup, trying to make it taste like your grandma's recipe. At first, it's all guesswork. Too salty? Add less salt next time. Too bland? Add more spices. You tweak, adjust, and taste again. That's what neural networks do. It's called training. Every time they make a prediction, like "that's a dog," they check if they were right. If they were wrong, they adjust the recipe just a little bit. Do that a million times, and eventually they get really good at guessing. So when someone says, "the AI was trained on images of dogs," that's what they mean. It wasn't told the rules, it figured them out by seeing enough examples and adjusting over time. Now, these neurons in a neural network aren't thinking the way your brain does. They don't have emotions. They don't understand what a dog is. They just know that, statistically, when certain parts of an image look a certain way, the label dog tends to be right. It's pattern recognition, not real understanding. Imagine you're blindfolded and playing a game where you guess objects by touch. At first, you mess up. But with enough tries, you start noticing textures, shapes, and sizes, and your guesses improve. You're not seeing the object, but you're learning the feel of it. That's how neural networks work. They don't see the way we do, but they learn what certain patterns mean based on trial and error. And they're everywhere. When Netflix suggests a movie, that's probably a neural network. When your phone unlocks using your face, that's one too. Voice assistants, spam filters, self-driving cars, all powered by neural networks. But here's the kicker, they're only as good as the data they're trained on. If you train an AI only on black and white cats, it might not recognize a ginger tabby. If it only sees daytime photos, it might struggle at night. It doesn't know what a cat is, it only knows what kinds of patterns it's seen before. So yes, neural networks are powerful. They've changed the world of AI. But they're not brains. They don't think, feel, or understand. They just process data in layers, adjust based on feedback, and get better at making guesses. That's it. They're like giant teams of interns with no idea what they're doing, just taking feedback and trying again. And the more examples you give them, the better they get. So next time you hear neural network, don't imagine a sci-fi robot brain. Imagine a giant web of light bulbs passing messages, learning from mistakes, and getting just good enough to fool us into thinking it's smart. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this simple breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more tech explained without the tech speak, and let me know in the comments, what part of AI still totally confuses you. I might make a video on it next.